So I in my Femdom Academy, I teach a methodology of domination where I break up the dominatrix into four archetypes within the dominant self, and they are the authoritarian, the seductress, the mother, and the queen archetypes. These are four archetypes, and so the easiest archetype for someone like that to step into, who, let's say your partner, maybe she feels more like her own sexual desires, or she wants to be more submissive than dominant. I think all women have a queen in them, so if you can um touch base with that, connect with that queen archetype within you, which is a very receiving, like the direction is more of a receiving than giving the dominance. If you just kind of receive the submission and the worship coming from the submissive and just be like, wow, they love and adore me, they worship me, like, and I feel so filled up by that, like it makes me feel really good. that's
Mm-hmm.
that's being a dominatrix. That is. So a dominatrix isn't just one thing. It's not what you see in the movies, where in the movies, you see the authoritarian, basically. It's the one that's, kind of like shouting out the orders, telling you what to do, and being bossy and things like that. That's the more active part of the dominatrix. But the receiving part is also very dominant, for me to just be like, I take in what you give me. I receive it and I appreciate it, all your gifts. Because the submission is a gift. Your submission is like, it's going out to her, it's going to the dominant. So for her to just receive your submission as a gift is huge. It's huge.
Hmm. Would you give a brief description of each of the four?
Yeah, the four. So these are my this is my methodology. I came up with, because I studied archetypal psychology in graduate school. So archetypal psychology is a huge is part of my educational background, and I loved it. And so I took I took the dominatrix and broke it down into four archetypes. The authoritarian archetype, and each dominatrix, each I should say each dominatrix who is fully developed has these four archetypes. The authoritarian is the one that's in control. She's the boss. She gives you commands and orders. She sets the tone of the scene. When you step into a scene with the dominatrix, you want to see her authoritarian archetype come out, because you want to immediately be told what to do, because you don't know what to do. You're a sub. So you want her to be like, these are the rules. This is what you do. This is how I want you to be. That's the authoritarian. And that's the mental aspect. The seductress archetype that's the sadist. She's the one that takes enjoyment from your suffering. Whatever the suffering is, it could be physical suffering, it could be mental suffering, it could be humiliation, it could be putting you down in a predicament. But whatever that is, she receives pleasure from your pain and suffering. So that's the seductress. The seductress is the erotic energy. So that's the sensual, sexual part of the interplay between the dom and the sub. Because if you don't feel your dom's enjoyment, then it's not that hot. You might she's all authoritarian but no seductress. But the best case scenario is to have her be bossy and sexy, and like want to derive enjoyment from your pain, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, pain is on all levels. It doesn't have to be just physical. And then there's a mother archetype, who's very important, because she is the one that she's the emotional connection. She sets the container of safety. If you don't feel safe with your dominatrix, you can't let go. It's impossible to let go if you don't feel safe in her um, in her container that she's built. So she has to be there the whole time. Well, she's going to be there in the beginning when you guys talk about the scene. There's always a pre-scene talk before you start the scene. She's going to be there. She's going to tell you. She's going to let you know that she understands everything about your fantasies, what it is that you want, what your submissive desires are. She's there. She's there throughout. She might not be there overtly throughout the scene, but she can be there momentarily throughout the scene. You feel glimpses of her. You'll know she's safe. You know that she's keeping you safe. And then the queen archetype. The queen archetype is the spiritual connection. And she's the one that makes you feel like you're in awe of her. A submissive has a need to feel in awe of the dominatrix. There's a need for the submissive to worship her and just to be like, you know what, to worship a powerful woman. I feel like that's very innate desire in men. I mean, all men. In all men, I think that there's the innate desire to worship the female presence, her physical beauty, her inner beauty, all of that. I mean, like, my God, women are beautiful. So to have permission to just pour that adoration out and just express it is just so liberating for the submissive, And so the queen archetype is part of the dominatrix that allows for that to happen. And this is the archetype that, as doms, we bring out into the world. This is what the world sees. This is the part that the world sees of my dom self, is the queen archetype. You're not necessarily going to see, the authoritarian and the seductress and stuff, but the queen is always there. Queen is always there. So I developed these archetypes because as I went through my years of dominating, I figured out, there's these still different elements coming out in me, and so I, as a psychological thinker, I put them into categories. And these are the categories. These are the archetypes within a fully developed dominatrix.